Hey, Edmonton, thank you so much for declining.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. And man, that feels so good to say. Welcome back where we talk all things about our St. Louis Blues. I'm your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our Blues. On today's episode, yes, it is about the offer sheets because we are approaching the 1-year anniversary. Teams, hey, I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to tell you which teams in the Central I am not afraid of. And any more moves for the Blues in this economy? Maybe. Okay, so before we begin today's episode, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hello, and welcome. I am so happy to be doing today's episode. I have my voice again. I have my energy again, which means I have my personality again. I was battling COVID the last week. So my episode the weekend, yeah, I sounded kind of bad. Listen, I'm still kind of getting back into things again, but I'm really glad to be here today. So anyways, let's go jump in. Jump into this offer sheet conversation. So tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of when the Blues, when Doug Armstrong offered Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg offer sheets. And on the 20th, I believe that's the week after, is when Edmonton declined and they became St. Louis Blues. It was a great time. And a big question that I still get all the time is from Edmonton fans, actually. Hello. Um, who won? And they always say, why do you think the Blues won when Dylan Holloway wasn't able to play in the playoffs? That's a legit thing I have gotten from Edmonton fans. I think it's actually insanity, but that is what I have received on social media. Obviously not to my face. I don't live out in Edmonton, not planning on going to Edmonton. But what I will say is this. Dylan Holloway's injury was unpreventable, right? Things happen on the ice all the time. I think it's really unfair for people such as fans, spectators of the game of hockey to criticize a player for getting injured. He couldn't return to the ice. And I'm sure if Dylan Holloway was able to play in the playoffs, he would have done a fantastic job because that is the type of player that Dylan Holloway is. And it blows my mind, in all honesty and total transparency, that I do see those type of comments because it does boggle me a little bit to where I can't help but think, so Edmonton's never had to deal with injuries? And listen, I am also aware and cognitive that the Oilers made it back to the Stanley Cup Finals, didn't have the results that they wanted, but they still made it back, which is a huge, huge, huge deal. And I'll give my flowers where the flowers are due, and I will congratulate the Edmonton Oilers on doing so. But at the same time, you have to think about the future of your team. You have a team with some older players, and you can't deny that that is a factual statement, who are making, by the way, a lot of money. With the potential of Holloway and Broberg to enhance your team in years to come and having that go away, I would say that hurt your team more than it helped your team, okay? So when I hear that, that annoys me actually because again, we saw Holloway have such an incredible season and injuries happen. It is what it is. And another thing I want to bring up too is that we also saw Philip Broberg injured in the beginning of the season, and he was able to overcome that. So I think all in all, when you just kind of compare what happened this season, both of the guys, yes, dealt with injury. However, that doesn't define their game, first off, and they're both going to be ready and healthy for next season. It's becoming more and more rare that we see players play all 82 games in a season just because of how common injuries are, right? It's a physical contact sport. You never know what hit might take you out. You just never know what is going to exactly happen on the ice. But injuries, yeah, they're going to happen. But again, if you look at them, just how they performed on the ice this season, um, I can't see in any which way how you would say the Oilers won the offer sheet situation. And just to kind of give you a little bit of history again, I actually have up my old notes. Yes, that is right. My notes from about a year ago about the offer sheets and what went down. Again, I apologize if I sound a little bit nasally. I am overcoming this. So please bear with me. But, anyways, on the 13th, 2024, the Blues had a rare offer sheet for two of the Edmonton Oilers restricted free agents, Philip Broberg, defenseman. It was 2 years worth $9.16 million, and that comes about to 4.58 milli AAV and requiring a second round pick as compensation. Dylan Holloway, 2-year deal worth 4.8 milli total. And if you break that down, it's 2.29 milli AAV, requiring a third round pick. The Oilers, they had 1 week. And yes, I was right on the date. It was August 20th to either match the offer or decline it. In the end, they declined both offers. And both Broberg and Holloway officially joined the Blues. Edmonton, on the other hand, they did get those draft picks. So that is how that went down. Anyways, I would say this. The Edmonton Oilers declining it was a little bit surprising. And when I say declining it, I'm talking more so both. Just because, one, I thought that potentially Edmonton might match one. In my opinion, I thought Dylan Holloway, just because it was the lower amount of money. I was not as surprised that they declined to match Philip Broberg. However, what I will say, too, on the other hand, is I was pleasantly surprised to see that they declined both. Okay. I wanted them to decline both. That was the end goal. But for that 1 week, I remember Nick, who does Locked on Oilers, him and I, we did a crossover, a collaboration video. And I was saying, there's 3 possibilities. Well, technically 4 possibilities. Edmonton matches both. Okay. Edmonton matches Broberg. Edmonton matches Holloway, or Edmonton declines both. And I said Edmonton declining both seems not likely. And they did just that. And it was fantastic. So, yes, thank you, Edmonton. And I know Oilers fans are like, well, we're still a good team. Okay. And I'm not denying that you're a good team. I think the Edmonton Oilers are a good team. I'm talking years down the line, maybe the next couple years. I'm just saying that you can only be a good team of the players that you have currently for so long, but you do need to get younger. And that is why I still stand on my initial statement, mind you, that I believe that the St. Louis Blues won because of the talent and the youth from both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. And now for the Blues, they need to think about extending both of them because I think they should. I think they both deserve it. The question is, how much money do they deserve? Obviously, you're going to see a significant increase with Dylan Holloway and increase with Philip Broberg. How much? I don't have the answer for that one because the Blues also need to be careful with their money, but that's a whole entire different episode. But yes, as we were kind of reminiscing on the past with the offer sheets, of course, I wanted to come on here and thank Edmonton because you helped us by developing these guys and getting them NHL ready. You helped us. So thank you for helping us. Isn't it nice what we do when we care about the other NHL teams? Anyways, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed, it's all you need. So stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and they help you reach the right candidates faster. I know for me, when I have friends that are searching for jobs, they say, "Hale, where should I go?" And I tell them Indeed because Indeed makes it so much basically easy to find a job, and then it's the other way around. If you want to hire candidates, it's the same transparency. So I'm telling you, when it comes to hiring good candidates and finding a good job, Indeed is where you want to be. So now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed, it's all you need. Do you really think out of all the teams in the Central Division, I am afraid of the Nashville Predators? I am not. Why are the Preds catching strays off the bat? Great question. The reason why is this. I think that we focus a lot on the teams that are successful, teams that are doing really well. And we sometimes, and it's not our own fault, but we sometimes neglect to talk about the teams that are not strong, that don't play as well, that are boring to watch, unexciting, make stupid decisions. We don't talk about that enough. And one of those teams is the Nashville Predators. And when the Predators signed Steven Stamkos for all of that money, I knew this team was going to be trash. And it's not because of Stamkos himself, it's more so about the money that they've spent. Because when you spend so much money on one player and you're banking on that player, especially a player who's older, to carry the team, usually doesn't work out. So, no, I was not surprised by that. But what I will say is this, it is still important for the Blues to find wins against those type of teams. I know it's easier said than done. And I know I can say the same thing about Chicago. I know I could say the same thing about Utah. Not that Utah's like a bad team. I'm just saying that Utah's like an average team, right? But a common team that the Blues always seem to find themselves in a predicament with, I like that word, a predicament, is San Jose. I know. Haley, what's your beef with San Jose? Well, it's the fact that San Jose actually brings out the worst in the Blues. They actually do a really good job about bringing out the worst in the Blues. And this is something that the Blues need to work on this upcoming season. It's that when you're playing the teams that are not as strong, the teams that don't have maybe, I don't want to say the roster necessarily, because I think anybody who plays in the NHL is a talented player, but maybe just, I guess you can say the roster. I don't want to be disrespectful though towards some of these younger players. I can guess you can say experience on the roster. That's a better word or phrase to say it. Um, y- you don't really see the Blues being able to show they have more experience in more competitive games against San Jose than the Sharks do, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is this. The season with the famous hand pass, well, that was the season the Blues ended up going on to win the cup. Sharks, they've been irrelevant since. Okay, let's say it for how it is. The Blues have played very much so meaningful games since winning the Stanley Cup. San Jose hasn't. But it doesn't always translate when you see the Blues and the Sharks playing against each other. So for me personally, and I'm just looking at this from a perspective of a non-biased hockey-loving fan, I would say those two teams match up very well against each other. And I would say the same thing actually from a San Jose perspective. From a Blues perspective, I would say It's infuriating because the Blues are more talented than San Jose. The Blues have a better roster. They have better players. They have better coaching. They have everything that's better. But they can't always seem to win. And I think that for me, that also then translates to a team like the Anaheim Ducks, where you have some of these really young teams, and yet it's like oddly competitive when it shouldn't be. And I guess if we bring this back in, we're gonna reel it back into the Central Division. The Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, that's a team that we have a lot of history with, like a lot of history with. If you don't know about all the history, then you're definitely not a Blues fan. I'm joking. No, but like, you're not. A team that we have a lot of history with. I still feel like, and I'm not saying this season, but in a couple seasons from now, it's gonna be a completely different ball game when the young talent with Chicago begins to really develop. So the Blues need to stand their own. And what I will say is this too, and it's a really interesting thing as I'm going on a bit of a rant here about these teams, but the Blues play their best hockey every single season against the Dallas Stars, and Dallas is better than St. Louis. No denying that one. Dallas is the better team. However, what I will say too in the same sentence is it's a different kind of competitiveness. It's like a different level, right? Like you're seeing two really strong hockey teams. You don't see the same when it's like the Blues and the Sharks, the Blues and Chicago. You see it kind of drop down a bit. The Blues play to their opponent. And I think that's what I was trying to get at. I couldn't find the words, but that's what they do. They play to their opponent's level. The Blues need to play consistently to the level that they're currently on, and I think that's how they're going to find more success this upcoming season. You need to stop playing down to teams and just play the way that you have been playing. And I think that's very simple advice, but it's also realistic advice. I can't come on here and say, yeah, the Blues are going to be absolutely dominant against San Jose next season because I know that might not be the case because for whatever reason they play down to their level, which then makes it seem like they're both playing on the same level, which is not true. I mean, it is true for that game, but not overall. I think the Blues have a sense of confidence that they should have for making it to the playoffs and playing really well, minus some of game 1, some of game 2, some of game 5, and again, the last little bit of game 7. That was brutal, but what I will say is that they should be confident. They should feel amped up and ready to go. But no, I am not scared of teams like the Bruins, okay? I'm not scared of the teams that are not going to be good this season because I know that the Blues are a better team overall. The Blues' biggest problem is them. It's playing down to the levels of other teams that are not as good. And we've seen this too many times, and enough is enough. And there has to be a voice in the Blues locker room that says to these players, hey, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? Why is it that we play down to other teams that are nowhere near as talented as us? And that needs to be the voice that goes around in the locker room, the voice that is the loudest voice possible. Because once you kind of get into the heads of these players, hey, it is unacceptable when you play slower against teams like San Jose because it's noticeable. The fans notice it. And you shouldn't want, by the way, fans of your own team to be like, oh, this seems to be a pattern. Like, that's not acceptable. And I think with Coach Montgomery, he's going to make sure that that does not happen as much as he can. Can't guarantee it, obviously, but as much as he can, because I think with having a coach like him who's going to be very aware of his team, he's going to want to make sure that the guys play the best that they can play to their ability every single game, despite the opponent. And listen, that's where I felt like the Blues did a really good job in the playoffs when they were playing the Winnipeg Jets at home. not on the road, but at home, because they were playing more so towards they were playing like it was just a normal game. Yes, it felt like the playoffs, but they weren't playing stupid hockey. They were playing controlled and focused hockey. And when you play hockey, the way it's supposed to be played, you're going to see good results. You're not going to see bad results with you get what I'm saying? So, yes, overall, the Blues just don't play to other teams' levels if they're not good. Just consistent. Please just stay consistent. Anyways, after that rant, I still can barely form sentences because I'm so congested, but it's fine. I want to let you know that if you're not subscribed to Locked On Blues on YouTube, you're doing it wrong. No, make sure, seriously, hit that subscribe button to Locked On Blues here on YouTube. I have new videos almost every single day. Getting over being sick. Still filmed a video while I was sick, so I guess that's some credit. But again, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Most importantly, make sure to subscribe. And on Twitter too at Locked On Blues. I film a lot of fun blues content throughout the year, so definitely stay in tune with that. All right. Finally, are the Blues going to make any more moves? Well, the short answer is no, that the Blues, they're not going to be making any more moves. I kind of thought that was a possibility for a little bit, right? And especially when we're talking on an episode like today about the offer sheets and how it did happen mid August. And yeah, I mean, there is always a possibility that something gets done, but the Blues have a really good roster as it is. They don't need to make any more additions for the forwards. Goalies, they're all good. And defense, I know it's a little bit of a concern for some people about the defense right now. In my opinion, the only move that I could see being made is maybe something of Justin Folk. Other than that, I can't say I see anything. I think that there's also some young talent that we're going to see at camp. But I think the Blues are pretty set this offseason on all the moves that they made and how they're going to be towards the upcoming season. I think that making moves just to make moves is a stupid thing. And I know that it sounds so obvious when I say it. But when you break down the real reason that you want to see the Blues make a move, you're probably going to think of a couple things. I want to add more depth on defense, more vet presence, or get younger on defense, whatever you want. Personally, I think get younger. So again, that's why to look at the guys that we drafted. Um, that's number one. Or you might say, hey, I want to improve this on the offense, or I want to improve the power play, special teams, penalty kill, you name it. But again, you have to look from within your own system. And there's a lot of guys that are going to show you at camp why they deserve to be on the roster. So sometimes what you're looking for in that missing piece, you already have. It's just more of a matter of, oh, I didn't realize that we had this because I didn't see it yet. Because it's easier to say that about players that you see in the NHL already. But if you watch like a lot of Springfield hockey, go T-Birds, or you watch some of these guys on the teams that they currently play on, you would know that there is a lot of talent, a lot of young talent. So I don't think the Blues are going to make any moves. I think that the exception was the offer sheets with Holloway and Broberg. Thanks again for dealing with me on an episode where I know I don't sound like 100%, but I'm trying. So at least there's that. All right, I will talk to you all later. And like always, let's go Blues.